the last few years, RGB floor lamps have exploded onto the scene, and I know there's already a ton of DIY videos out there, but I still really wanted to try coming up with something myself. And since I want to be able to shine the light at the wall, as well as at times have it face me, I'm going to go with the design that more closely resembles the smaller profile base of the popular Govee Lyra versus the traditional V-shape that you've probably seen a lot of videos on already. So the first thing I had to decide on was what to use for a diffuser, and I ended up going with this V-channel from Musada. This one is 1 meter in length, but since you can also get this in 2 meter sections, I'll for sure be doing this project again once I get my hands on that size. Next, I had to come up with something for the base, and I ended up using 1 1/4 inch square dowels that'll be cutting into different lengths. Now as you can see, these pieces of wood are about the exact same size as the profiles, which is going to be perfect for getting everything secured and set up. So right now I've already cut some of the squares into a few different lengths, and I'm just experimenting on different ways I might want to put them. And once I have a design that I like, I'm going to secure the pieces of wood together using just a little bit of your average wood glue. Here I'm going to take the diffuser and just line it up on top of one of the squares and make a mark at about 1/4 inch bigger than where the line would be if I were tracing it. Next, I'll be adjusting my blade to 45 degrees and cutting off the corner section where the mark was made. And since this cut won't be visible when installed, you don't need it to look perfect, so you could very well go slow and just use a regular handsaw if you'd like. Now that the 3 blocks have dried, it's time to get the aluminum diffuser added, and based on how tall you want the lamp to be, will determine where it gets secured. To attach the profile to the wood, all I'm going to be using is some super glue, and once applied, I just held things firmly in place for about 1 minute, and then I let things set for about an hour. So now I'm going to take that one piece of wood that we cut the corner off and butt it up right next to the bottom of the channel. I do want this piece of wood shorter than the other ones because this is where I'll eventually feed the wires out of. And hopefully you can see here that the gap in the wood should be just big enough so that the wires from the LED strip will be able to fit through. Now honestly, at this point, the profile will stay upright and you could be done with it if you wanted to. However, I'm going to add a few more blocks of wood to give it a little bit sturdier of a base and a little bit more character. And I really had to fight the urge to get carried away, but I was proud of myself and only added 3 more pieces. For the lights, I'm going to be using some BTF SK6812 LEDs since these will have the individually addressable pixels that I want, as well as a separate LED just for the whites. I've already soldered my own 18 gauge silicone wires to the strip, and I won't go over that process since I already made a how-to solder video that goes over the easy steps of what I just did with very close-up footage and commentary that I highly recommend checking out if you're interested. And you certainly don't have to, but I'm going to use a little heat shrink tube to cover up the soldering points at the strip and to give the wires a little more reinforcement. So the next thing I'm going to do is look at the bottom of the base, and I want to determine where the best spot might be for the wires to come out. And I'm going to make a few marks for potential places I think might be best, but I won't be doing anything further at the moment. I'm also going to use this mesh type cord concealer to tidy up the wires from the LED strip. I probably should have gone with a little bit bigger size, but they'll still do the trick. Now after giving it some thought, I think this little area right here is where I'm going to have the wires come out from under the base. And I didn't record this part, but I just used a little sander attached to a Dremel rotary tool to make the little groove. But you just as easily could have used a little saw or chisel for this step. Here I'm going to be feeding the wires through the little slot in the wood at the bottom of the diffuser. And once that's done, I'll be removing the sticky tape and securing the LED strip under the aluminum profile. And in case you're wondering, there are 60 LEDs on this strip. Now the last thing to do before going over power and controller is to attach the milky white diffuser cover to the profile. Now right here, it's a little hard to see, but this is where I used a little sander to make a small groove in the wood so that when this thing's sitting on the floor or a hard surface that the wire can come out but the base will still be flush with the surface. For power, I'm going to use a 5V 10A supply, and I've already cut off the barrel plug at the end and exposed the positive and negative wires. And since there's not much room to work, I'm going to use an inline Wago connector to extend the wires a little bit so it's not so cluttered. As far as controlling the lights, I'm using my standard WLED installed on an ESP32 board. I won't go over those steps since I already made a simple walkthrough video on how to get that installed that you can watch, and in the already mentioned soldering video, I go over how to attach the wires to the module like I have here. Next is the easy part. I'm using a 5-piece Wago connector, and I'll be inserting the red voltage wire from the power source and the red voltage wire from the LED strip into 2 of the 5 openings. Then I'll use another 5-piece connector and do the same thing for the 2 black negative wires. Now I'm just going to plug the red voltage wire from the ESP device into one of the remaining 3 slots on the connector, and then I'll do the same for the white ground wire, which will go into one of the 3 open slots that have the black wires in. And finally, I'm using a 3-section Wago connector to put the green data lines together. So the reason I use Wago clips with more openings than needed is now if I want to make a second floor lamp, which I did, all I have to do is put the 3 wires from that LED strip into the appropriate remaining openings and I'll be good to go. So that about does it for this project. I hope you enjoy the final pictures and videos, and as always, let me know if you have any questions at all.
But it was just my mind playing tricks fly by. My compass